Now, the case of Virginia Attorney General nominee Jay Jones all by itself should be the death knell of the entire Democrat Party. This case all by itself would tell you the Democrat Party needs to be, in a metaphorical sense, burned to the ground.
Jay Jones is under fire tonight.
Jay Jones is under fire.
Jay Jones is under fire after messages he sent in 2022 saying former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert should be shot.
Jay Jones, a Democrat candidate for the Attorney General position in Virginia, came under fire over the weekend when a text message exchange between him and a former colleague was published. And this wasn't the typical cheating scandal or affair gone wrong that has become all too common. This exchange took a much darker turn than that.
For text messages, horrible. I didn't want to read them out loud. I'm wondering how the text messages
deeply disturbing messages that have been swiftly condemned across the political aisle. The Republicans have tried to tie this to the Congresswoman Spanberger, the gubernatorial candidate. She did very quickly denounce them.
It's wildly inappropriate under any circumstances. Today, tomorrow, 10 years ago, 6 months ago. I think the pressure is going to be on Spanberger and for the whole of the party to ask this candidate to just quit the race, because just both, it's the right thing, and also the political splashback. You don't want to mess with this right now.
Who says that?
I think the right thing to do is basically this guy should do everyone a favor and step out of the race.
Yeah.
In August of 2022, around 8 a.m., Republican House Delegate Carrie Coyner received a series of texts from her colleague Jay Jones. These messages were about former Delegate Joe Johnson, who had recently passed at the age of 90. Representing the Democratic Party in Virginia for nearly 3 decades. But these weren't words of encouragement or any kind of emotional reach out after the loss of a longtime figure. No, these texts were sent with anger and disgust. So much so that he sent this message in such a hurry that he sent them to the wrong person. But here we are. And as it turns out, Jay Jones was no fan of Johnson's centrism, writing a D but basically an R. Adding, it's why Gilbert gave him such a glowing tribute. But who is Gilbert? Enter in the other major player in this story, Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert, who is about to be the focal point of this text message exchange moving forward. And as we are getting ready to explore, Jay Jones did not appreciate the eulogy being given by Gilbert. And from the way he expressed himself in the text messages, it has all of the appearances of Jay taking this eulogy as a slap to the face, seeing Johnson as more of a Republican than on his own team. Also written here from the National Review that he went on to joke about what a piece of shit Gilbert would say about him if he died, which would be fine if it stopped there. But it gets so much worse. If those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Send them out awash in something. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Jay Jones unleashing how he truly feels, with Carrie Coyner pushing back, asking him to please stop, as it has become clear to her that the conversation has taken a turn for the worst. In her public statement to the National Review, she said, "I had a text conversation with Jay Jones. What he said was not just disturbing, but disqualifying for anyone who wants to seek public office." And the text message exchange was only half of the conversation, as it was after this series of messages that Jay picked up on Carrie's alarm and proceeded to call her to further explain his reasoning. According to the source, the Democratic former legislator doubled down on the call, saying the only way public policy changes is when policymakers feel pain themselves, like the pain that parents feel when they watch their children die from gun violence. He asked her to provide counterexamples to disprove this claim. And at one point, the source said, he suggested he wished Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views, prompting Coyner to hang up the phone in disgust. And I'm going to be honest, I don't blame her one bit for hanging up that phone. That guy is a lunatic, demanding that she prove him wrong in a conversation that she wasn't even supposed to be a part of in the first place. No, it comes off to me like he's desperate. He knows exactly what he has just done, and if he can't get the genie back in the bottle about convincing Carrie Coyner about political violence, then he knows it's over for him. And predictably, after she hangs up the call, Jay Jones continues to barrage her with text messages, saying the reliable, "I'm just asking questions." But by this point, Carrie's dug her feet in, responding, "You weren't simply asking questions and you know it. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die." And then Jay Jones comes clean. "Yes," he says, "I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy." And for the entire unmasking, the final text we have from Jay Jones in this exchange reads, "I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil? And that they're breeding little fascists? Yes." And not only is that exchange revealing as to who Jay Jones is as a person, but I find the most questionable aspect of this entire story to be the timeline. Because I'm wondering why a series of texts that are this aggressive took until 2025 to be revealed. And that tells me it's one of a couple things. If you look at all of the text messages that have been published, it's clear they aren't entirely linear, with what appears to be missing messages between these two exchanges. And what is missing from that would be Carrie Coyner's response to Jay's statement of making people feel pain personally. So maybe she did agree somewhat, and she cleanly kept that part out because she didn't want to start getting dragged too. But that doesn't make sense, and I'll tell you why. She sent screenshots to the conversation to Todd Gilbert himself that day, or so she says, and that raises the next more glaring question. If Todd Gilbert had these messages in 2022, why would he not make them public then? So sure, perhaps she is lying and she's playing a darker role here than what's expected. But I don't buy that. I actually think the answer is simpler and darker. We have become desensitized to the level of dehumanization and threatening language of the left, and that's become the norm. And I think really it's only because of the recent tragedy of the killing of Charlie Kirk that we have begun to look at these elements in a different light. And that, my friends, leads us into how not only Jay Jones, but the entire left has responded.
We had Charlie Kirk assassinated, and so many folks celebrated in the far left. We've had two Democrats threaten to murder two of our delegates running for office in Virginia. And now Jay Jones comes out and says that he has 2 bullets for Todd Gilbert's head and wants to see his children die. I mean, this is unbelievable.
We've reached out to the Jones campaign, and they sent a statement that reads, "Like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret, and I believe that violent rhetoric has no place in our politics. Let's be clear about what is happening in the Attorney General race right now. Jason Miyares is dropping smears through Trump-controlled media organizations to assault my character and rescue his desperate campaign. This is a strategy that ensures Jason Miyares will continue to be accountable to Donald Trump, not the people of Virginia. This race is about whether Trump can control Virginia or Virginians control Virginia."
National Review's article, which came out today, says after those text messages were sent to Carrie Coyner, you picked up the phone and called her. You said, according to the article, I'm quoting, "Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views." Did you say that?
Bottom line is that the language is unacceptable. And again, I deeply, deeply, deeply wish that it hadn't happened. I have spent the entire day really regretting all of it. And I certainly wish that it hadn't happened. And I'm sick to my stomach when I read those words. And certainly they're objectionable, they're abhorrent, they have no place in Virginia, no place in this country's discourse. And so, again, I am so deeply, deeply sorry.
How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific, so callously?
Well, again, I am so deeply, deeply sorry for what I said. And I wish that it hadn't happened, and I would take it back if I could. And again, I know that Todd and Jennifer and their family are feeling all sorts of warranted feelings toward me, and that's why, again, why I reached out. And I want them to understand that I wish that I hadn't done it. I wish I hadn't said it.
And just like that, his campaign will continue on, with an extremely weak response that reads, "Like all people, as if everyone sends messages like that in their life at some point. This now applies pressure onto the entirety of the left, especially others from Virginia, and especially those who are running for election. Enter in Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat congresswoman running for governor of Virginia, who also gave an extremely pitiful response.
And what's shocking also is that after calling for the normal apology, the Democrat candidates, Abigail Spanberger and the rest of them, were out campaigning this weekend like it was nothing. They have got to call for this guy to resign, step down, get out of this race in disgrace, because this is beyond disqualifying.
Quote, I made clear to Jay that he must fully take responsibility for his words. What I've also made clear is that as a candidate and the next governor of our Commonwealth, I will always condemn violent language in our politics. But she didn't say get the you-know-what out of the race.
That's a whole lot of saying a lot of words to say absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And I think Jay Jones, I don't just think he should drop out of the race. I think he needs a psych evaluation, because someone who wants to see their political opponent's children die has some very scary brain rot. And this has shifted from being just about Jay Jones to, as you said and as Megan said, an indictment of every Democrat who refuses to call on him to drop out. Because if you refuse to call him to drop out and refuse to even drop your endorsement, you are endorsing what he has said. And I think this is going to hound Democrats in Virginia all the way through November.
And that is exactly how the game is played. And great catch by the guy there at Fox News, calling out the language as bad but not actually demanding any kind of consequence. And in this case, that would be calling for him to step down and close his campaign and cease his bid for Attorney General. But it's not just Democrat leadership that showed this hand. A screen grab going viral on X that was pulled from Reddit shows the same exact sentiment. They aren't appalled that he said what he said. They are appalled that he said it out loud, angry that he let the mask slip, and I think that becomes the broadest, most stomach-sinking revelation of all. So who is Jay Jones, you ask? Jay Jones is the typical Democrat.
Smash that like button.